presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate. I am your host, Dominic Crissetto, along with Mr. TJ Corman, one-time App State wide receiver, for those that are joining us who have not joined us before, right?
Yeah, if you're just now tuning in, I know who's not just now tuning in or not new to this, and that's Artie Cat, and I'm sure he'll be here soon.
He probably.
I'm gonna go ahead and say hi first before he says hi.
There you go. What's up, Artie? Yeah, we did kind of a last-second show on Sunday, or actually it was Monday, because Sunday was when we wanted to do it. Got crazy, a lot of stuff going on. And we put it up like an hour before, and I don't think he was even aware. So it was like his first show he's ever missed. It was kind of sad. Oh, guess who it is?
Hey, Artie, there he goes.
And I can confirm, Artie, Kat, that your shirts are on the way. I can finally confirm that. Thank God. It's the long wait is over, so he should see those shortly. And we'll have to see if he can share that with us. As always, brought to you by collegefootballdogs.com. The reason I don't have the sign up today, for those that are wondering or noticing something missing in the background, but you can see the football field a little bit better there. So, our sponsor, one of our presenting sponsors, Fanplex, I got the stuff in, and I wanted to hang it up here tonight, but unfortunately, I have yet to been able to find a way to do that without ruining the posters, which I don't want to do. So this is the Troy one that says Battle Ready with DeWitt Vetterson, and then you've got almost lost one there. This one here with Joey California, App State quarterback. So great stuff there from Fanplex. At some point, they will be up on the background behind me. We also want to shout out TSN Off Road. We'll have a funny or two commercial to present you with as we go along in the show today. As always, Dubby Energy. I finally have one empty that I can share with you, but this is great stuff. I had my friend Seth try it for the first time this weekend. He's like, wow, this is actually really good. I'm like, I'm telling you, man. And no carbonation, no sugar. Hey, it's great. And also, TJ's favorite sponsor of all time, Dano's Seasoning.
That is factual. Shout out to Dano's. Actually got some chicken in the crock pot now with some honey garlic Dano's seasoning. So yum, get you some.
I don't know if you've seen it yet. They just came out with a jalapeno cheese flavor too.
Yeah, well, I'll be getting my hands on that as well.
Yeah, it sounded delicious. As soon as I heard it, I was like, yeah, gonna be getting that one for sure.
Yeah.
And if you want to get that one, go check out the show description that was linked from wherever you're watching this show at right now. There's a little promo code in there to get you off your first purchase. Actually, I think it's pretty much for all of your purchases. And on that same aspect, Dubby is usually 10% off. It's 20% off for the rest of September. So if you've been on the fence thinking about trying something, give it a shot, because you've got a little bit deeper of a discount with our SBS promo code for that one. And TSN Off Road's got some cool Molly panels. Again, all of our sponsors give us a little something, seems like. So Molly panel for those people that do some off-roading, or more importantly for the football aspect, tailgating. So all that being said, without further ado, let's jump into why everybody's here. Week 3 of the power rankings. 1 and 2 for us, really. I mean, I could have flipped mine. You could have flipped yours. I feel like we're both pretty comfortable putting those two teams at 1 and 2. Is that, you got somebody clearly above, or you think they were pretty close?
No, fairly even. I kept kind of the occasions above the Chanticleers. But yeah, you could easily. There's no argument. I'm not going to be mad either way. Actually 1, 2, and 3, to be quite honest, not necessarily interchangeable, but certainly top 2 are interchangeable. And in that third spot, Texas State didn't do anything to lose it. That's for sure.
Yeah, in fact, for both of us, they actually came up from the week before. That's what the for those watching visually, that's what the arrows indicate, is just the movement from the week before. It doesn't matter. That's not like they're doing well or they're doing poor. That's literally if they moved up or down. And again, top 3, not the exact same order, but the same 3 teams. After that, we've got some changes. So I had Georgia Southern jumping up, getting the victory over Nevada. On the road across the country, I thought was pretty impressive. Nevada, been looking pretty decent so far. You have JMU, after a very, very close game with Gardner Webb of all teams, actually jumping up in your poll. Is that and you've got App going down. So is that more of kind of that type of movement?
That is exactly it. It's more they're taking the spot of some shuffling going on. I mean, App State obviously clearly gets demoted based on that performance that they put out on Saturday. And JMU didn't do really anything to jump up in the charts. It's just more or less App had to come down. And also a win is a win. I don't care who you beat. Again, you don't control who's on your schedule, and I don't care if you win by 5 or you win by 50. At the end of the season, it's going to count as a W. So they got the win, and that's what's most important.
Yeah, and I think we can talk about that one real quick. I was unlucky enough to be at Clemson, South Carolina for that game. I was hoping it was going to be a heck of a game, as App usually puts on with these power programs. A couple of teams from the Sun Belt actually usually put on, but App definitely has that pedigree, either taking someone right to the very end or overtime, as we've seen, and obviously a couple of victories over, UNC, Texas A&M, obviously when you were on the team, Michigan. So, yeah, I mean, it was I didn't expect it. I wasn't shocked with the loss. I knew Clemson was going to be mad as hell coming off that Georgia loss. Yeah, the way they lost it, I mean, it was pretty clear, though, that most of the people in the stadium were kind of ready and prepared for that type of game. I don't know if they had as much confidence before that ball was snapped, and once that third play of the game happened and they took the top off the defense, that was pretty much it.
Yeah, it got bad quick. It got bad quick, and it didn't let up. I mean, it was was it 48-0 at halftime, or at like midway through the second quarter? I mean, it got bad fast.
You want to know how bad it was? I was sitting there, had my son and my wife there, and I've been up to get a snack and come back down, and they let us score, so they were lighting up the scoreboard, fireworks going off. I look up and I didn't realize what quarter it was, and there was enough time on the play clock to get the ball snapped, but you could have run out the quarter, or I thought was the half. And I said, why are you snapping the ball? You're down 35-0. Just take it to halftime, cut your losses. I still didn't realize it. Like a couple minutes later, they're playing again. And I'm like, am I loopy? What's going on here? Why are they playing so fast? This is the shortest halftime I've ever seen. And it was not the end of the half. It was the end of the first quarter.
Yeah. So, it got bad and just stayed bad. I mean, and I was talking to my wife, I was talking to my dad, I was talking to a bunch of people about the game. That's, I think, the worst loss I have ever seen or been a part of in that jersey.
What about Virginia Tech 2011? It was a worse score.
Okay,
66-13 in that one.
Yeah, but I don't think it didn't feel like this.
Well, it didn't feel like this, and at that time, we were still FCS, right? I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and not only that, like, had Clemson continued to play, they could have put 100 on us.
I looked at the kids beside me who were both Clemson students, and I asked them that seriously. I said, "You think they put up 100 today?" And they both agreed. They were smart. They're football guys. I was trying to be jokingly having a little fun and everything,
right,
but they were both like, "Nah, they're going to call the Dogs off." But he's like, "It probably gets real boring in the second half." They left at halftime, by the way, so they did not stick around.
They called the Dogs off the second play of halftime. Like the backup quarterback was in after halftime. Otherwise, at the end of that third quarter, it would have been 80. They'd have put 80 on us at the end of the third quarter. Yeah. That's how bad it was.
All right, enough of that one. From here, we got quite a different mix. So I kept App at 5 after they dropped, right?
Okay.
I think a lot of teams would have gotten beat similarly. Yeah, stumbled over that word. But I do think Clemson would have taken down most of the Sun Belt, especially on that night. But
yeah, for sure.
Maybe these top 2 or 3 teams, definitely a different look to the game, but I still think
Clemson they still would have beaten by 50. They still would have it would. I mean, honestly, the way Clemson looked, and I don't want to keep harping on it, but the way they looked, they looked head and shoulders better than almost anybody not named Georgia.
Right, that's true. It's a good point. They really did look very good. They were fine. Nothing they were doing was wrong, essentially. But yeah, I still kept App in my top 5, probably barely hanging on, because I thought Marshall's game against Virginia Tech was very respectable. That was late into the third quarter before you ever started to doubt that one wasn't going to be kind of a toss-up towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of respect there because Marshall's still really trying to figure out their quarterback position or who's going to be the guy going forward. AJ Turner continues to go off, so he had a great game. He doesn't get into the end zone, but he goes over the century mark. And yeah, JMU struggled for me, so they continued to drop just kind of like App. Again, in my power rankings, I know you as a former player, winning is the most important. As a fan, it really, mine's more of the eye test type of thing. And JMU so far, besides that like end of the Charlotte game, they haven't had the last 2 years form. They just haven't. And it's okay because that's expected.
I was going to say, like, do we expect them to look like they looked over the past 2 years, given, what is it, 80% turnover or 70% turnover of their entire team? I mean, come on, we got to give them some kind of a break. And that's why I got them moved up a little bit. Number one, obviously, because of App and them losing. But partly because, like I said, I mean, they won, right? And I mean, they won the football game. And I don't expect it. I mean, any sound football mind wouldn't expect them to come into this season looking the way that they've looked the past 2 years. So I got to give them some slack.
Yeah, and then I guess I had them a little. I can't remember if they were in 5 or 6, but they weren't much higher anyways. They only really dropped one spot. Essentially, Marshall jumped them for sure. And I wasn't willing, again, with what I saw from both teams, to put App State below them at this point. Again, don't think JMU against Clemson would have gone a lot differently. But let's jump over to your side here. You've got Arkansas State at 5, which is quite a bit higher than where I have them. And I did get some comments before we go live here about where I had put them. A lot of people probably agreed more with where you have them. Right. So talk about your 5, 6, and 7 there real quick.
Yeah. So Arkansas State, close games, both weeks, right? Close game. But it says a lot about who you are as a team if you can pull those close games out. Right now, albeit they're not conference games, and I get it. And Tulsa is not necessarily the top tier G5. I get everything that I get all of that. But a win is a win, firstly. Secondly, you're 2-0. And what these kinds of wins tell me is that when the game is on the line and when the going gets tough, you've got what it takes. And you've got to kind of make up a mental fortitude to win and pull these games off. So for me, there's a lot to be said for a team that can pull those games off, because now you're getting the hard ones. I don't want to say you're getting the hard ones out of the way, but you're finding out who you are in those hard moments, right? Yeah. So when it gets into conference play, you're going to make yourself a little bit tougher against these teams that you're going to have to go against. And I think you get credit for that, in my opinion.
No, don't disagree. We kind of touched on the App thing. So Georgia Southern jumping up into your top 7. I have them quite a bit higher, but you've got them at 7. Just explain why they're moving up, or I guess, what do you see specifically maybe that made them move up above some of the other teams you had?
Yeah, with Georgia Southern, Nevada's a tough team, right? And they're not great, right? But they're a pretty tough team. And again, another one of those close wins that you pull out at the end. And again, that was more of a product of some shuffling and some moving around in terms of what my initial, because I think I had Marshall ahead of them initially, and I know I had Troy ahead of them initially. So some people had to move down for them to move up, and that's just kind of how the math worked out. But again, they get credit for me for a win, even though it was a close win. But this was less about what Georgia Southern did and more about what teams like App and Marshall, and even though Marshall's loss was close and it was to a very good, quality P5, or now I guess P4 team, but it was more about what Troy, ODU didn't do.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So now jump right into your 8. A lot of people had questions about you having USM so high. They beat badly by Kentucky. They rebound versus an FCS team. To me, those are two different spectrums. So that's why I have them last, because I have no idea where they fall. And that's partly why I have them last. So you have them at 8, though. So there's something there. Obviously, like you said earlier, win's a win. But is that really? I mean, is that how you just gauge it in the early part of the season when we don't know? Is that how you're doing it?
So partly that, right? Partly is because we don't know, right? We don't. I mean, you go from one end of the spectrum to the other, right? Kentucky is a formidable, not perennial great powerhouse, but a formidable football team and have been for the last 2-3 years, right? And you go from that to Hattiesburg. Okay, not the great, you know what I mean? Like not an awesome football team, but you win 35-10. You do what you're supposed to do, right? And then at the end of the day, you've got 3 teams that don't have wins.
Yeah,
you got to be ahead of those teams. You just have to be. You can't win. You can't be 1-1 and be behind teams that are 0-2. That just the math doesn't math in that to me personally. And so I want to give them credit for having won, having done what they were supposed to do. Again, I got them above Marshall. Maybe that's a little generous. Maybe above, Troy is a little generous as well. But I think you get credit for winning, and that's what I gave them credit for.
I actually don't. Now that you've explained it a little bit more, I actually don't have a real hard time understanding why you have Southern Miss above Marshall, because they're coming off a win where Marshall's coming off a loss. You'd have to also say, yeah, don't you say Kentucky's probably above Virginia Tech? I mean, Virginia Tech started off the season and got beat by Vanderbilt. Yes, it's an SEC team, but not a traditional power of any sort. So I can understand that, especially also because we just talked about Marshall still trying to figure out that offensive side of the ball a little bit.
We don't know who like right now, if we lined up Southern Miss and Marshall, it would be a crapshoot in terms of you and I who would win. Right? True. So even if I flipped them, nobody would really kind of bat an eye, right? It wouldn't really make that much of a difference. But I put them ahead of them because coming off a win, coming off of a loss, it matters who you play for sure. One was a kind of I don't want to say cupcake, but you beat them 35-10. That's what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And Marshall lost a tough, close game to Virginia Tech, but you still lost. So that's the thinking, that's the logic. And again, at the end of the day, you're still better than the bottom three who are 0-2, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That is a good point. Well, Georgia State is 1-1. But you have Troy in there, so yeah.
And I still think, but I think Troy is better than ODU and Georgia State.
Yeah. Kentucky is putting up 19 points offensive numbers. Yeah, they've. Last week against South Carolina, they got drubbed, right? Is that what?
They got. I think they got. Yeah, I can't remember what the score was. They got beat like a
little.
Yeah.
Oh man. So kind of rounding out some of the bottom teams as we go through. ODU, Troy continue to drop for both of us, obviously not picking up wins. I was probably more disappointed that ODU didn't get the victory because they're playing an ECU team. That ECU quarterback threw 4 interceptions, and ODU still couldn't win that game. So that one hurts them. Troy, I didn't necessarily expect them to win, but I expected a much closer game with Memphis. So again, they continue to fall. South Alabama doesn't have their best quarterback. Our offensive player of the week from last year, Gio Lopez, turf toe injury, did not go in this one. That's why they didn't move for me. I just didn't feel like that's the same team that we saw last week. So I didn't really get them to jump over some of the other teams, and I didn't really punish them for that either. Arkansas State, we've kind of talked a little bit about that. To me, it is a product of who you play, and they haven't played. Tulsa's not bad, but they got them at home. If they'd won that game on the road, I'd probably have rewarded them a little bit more. ULM 2-0, but I'm not sure what the heck UAB is yet. And Jackson State is an FCS team. You kind of better win that one. Georgia State's kind of in that similar realm as ULM at that point. And we already talked on Southern Miss being last for me. I have no idea what to do about trusting them. I don't think I'd take them to win in any game against anybody in this conference at this very moment. I'd have to see something more. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying I don't know I have any confidence in that team. So that's why for me they're at 14 until otherwise proven. But yeah, just round out your last couple there, and then we will move on into TJ's clips.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, similar concept, right? I mean, listen, you can't be 0-2. You just can't be and expect to move the needle at all. Georgia State's 1-1. I get it, but Georgia State, I mean, it's not a good 1-1. And I don't. If they lined up today, right now, Georgia State could not be ODU or Troy, in my opinion. And so that's why they are where they are currently. And then I've got South Alabama. They're just not a good football team right now, and they're not going to be good until they get their quarterback back. And we'll see. Kind of where it goes from there. But right now, I don't have any confidence in them versus right now anybody in the conference. It's kind of how you feel about Southern Miss. I think Southern Miss right now, without South Alabama having their quarterback, Southern Miss could go in there and beat them.
Okay, fair. Because I don't think either of us are putting a dime on it. I'll just say something.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Oh, man. Resident Arkansas State super fan Ben James saying, what's up, Dominic and TJ? What's up, Ben? Thanks for joining the show tonight. Yeah, let's jump right in to your clips here, man. I'm going to exit this full screen. Yeah, I guess I have to take this away. Actually, no, I do it this way. Man, I don't know. I'm lost so far.
Hey, you found
before we do that, we've got to play your little intro. So here we go.
Go!
All right. Again, for those that are newer, I know there was a couple people who said they might check out the show tonight. Sounded like they'd never done so before. This is the portion of the show where we get former App State wide receiver and former high school quarterback and former high school everything, football player, TJ Corman. You can tell by looking at his arms, to break down some film for us from this past weekend. So first up, we have a play from the UTSA Texas State game. And what we'll see here is UTSA backed up towards the goal line. And we're going to have TJ tell you what it's like as a player being backed up into a student section that's loud and crazy. And then the fact that this is early in the game and what it could possibly mean for you down the road.
Yeah, this is a tone setting kind of play, right? Like, so this is one of those situations where as a player, you don't want to be backed up into the opposing person end zone, number one. Number two, you don't want to be where their student section is. I remember playing against Georgia Southern and also against LSU, two of the rowdiest student sections I've ever been a part of in my entire life, them and NC State. When you're down and you've got yourself in a precarious situation against a really good football team, and the team and the stadium knows that they're a good football team, the last place you want to be is right where UTSA was. So, and then not only that, your quarterback gets his head taken off almost. I mean, if they show look at his feet, they're off the ground.
Oh yeah,
his feet were off the ground, and that almost was a pick. Try to use the ground to help him catch the ball a little bit. Obviously, rep wasn't going for that, but that's one of those kinds of situations where it's just bad timing for everybody. Wearing white, you don't want to be backed up into your own end zone. You especially don't want to be backed up where you can't hear your quarterback snapping the ball. It's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I heard all kinds of stories. Take this away actually for a split second about how loud it was when they were down there, just for the whole game, but also specifically at the very beginning. I mean, this is like you said, this is the very beginning. This sets the tone. This is something that is going to help win you football games. Obviously, this one was rather easy in the end, but you don't know that going in. Everyone expected it to be a close, hard-fought battle.
Sure.
So to get a play like this early on, and yeah, TJ was right. That play there was actually ruled an interception to start with, but upon further review, pretty clear he trapped the ball with the ground. No interception. Still great field position after the punt there for Texas State after that one. All right, so the next one up that we've got comes from Georgia Southern and Arkansas. Yeah, Nevada. There we go. So this is J.C. French throwing a dime to Thompson, the wide receiver in the slot here.
Which, by the way, I don't know how this happens, because if you look at coverage, right, and we'll play it from the end zone view as well. First of all, let me back up. Let me give credit to the quarterback and to the receiver. They didn't have to do a whole lot because the receiver was extremely fast in the slot, and he just blew right past their safety. Ball was a little late. We talked about it. This is me nitpicking, but he put the ball where it needed to be, and it was a touchdown. But right here, you got your safety circle. There is zero reason that he needs to stay in his back pedal for that long. That is silly. That is ridiculous. My son could do a better job at playing safety than that, and he does. He plays safety for our football team. There is zero reason for him to sit in his back pedal for this. It is clear by the time. Look at the line of scrimmage. If you hit pause real quick, look at the line of scrimmage. He's already 4 yards off the ball. At 10 yards, there is no reason for you to stay in your back pedal. There's no break. He's full speed, head down. His arms are pumping. There is zero reason for you to stay in that back pedal at this point. He's already, that's terrible technique by that safety. And furthermore, they're in cover two, Dominic. You don't get beat deep in cover two. What the hell is happening? Like, I don't understand. There's zero responsibility or zero reason that he's not in his back half responsibility. I mean, he's already winning because he already has leverage in terms of being outside of the hash or outside of the hash mark. I don't understand how you get beat to the outside, and then I don't understand why you stay. That was bad all the way around on the defense. I mean, whether that was cover 4 or cover 2 really doesn't matter. That safety did a horrible job playing football on that play.
Yeah, and check out how obvious it was with number 5, the wide receiver at the bottom part of your screen near the 30-yard hash. Watch his arms go up and watch when they do on this replay here. He knows it as soon as French releases the ball, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, look at it.
Boom.
He's got him beat by 2.5 yards, and he started out with a 15-yard cushion. That is silly.
Yeah.
That makes no sense at all. That's terrible. If I'm that defensive back coach, he might not play this week.
Yeah. Oh man, not good. But this is the last play. This one once again comes from UTSA Texas State. This was just a great game from Texas State, and play here from Chris Down Jr. Sorry, I don't want to mess up the last name there. He almost gets a touchdown. He's the wide receiver towards the top part of your screen. We'll see it in full motion, and then we'll slow it down for you and have CJ talk about what he sees here.
All right. Nice play fake. I mean, listen, when you get shifty like this and you can get up the field, now it should have been a touchdown. And, but these kinds of things happen, right? You get shoestrung tackled. It happens all the time. But he got shifty when he got the ball. And so if you want to bring it back right here, look at this block outside on the corner. I think this is who is that? You got a receiver going in motion. I think the receiver going in motion is going to be the one who takes out the corner. You don't get much more textbook than this kind of block right here. So you see him coming across your screen, and he's not going upfield. He's not going upfield. Now he is. And then he stops his feet, boom, hat on a hat. I mean, and then you got your offensive line coming down. That's a perfectly executed tunnel screen. Doesn't get any better than that. I made my bread and butter out of the slot, and really a lot of the plays that I ran out of the tunnel screen, bubble screen, banana split screens, all those kinds of things. But is
that a real thing? Banana split screens, or you just make that up?
No, it's a banana screen.
Okay.
Banana slip screen, not split screen.
Okay. And now you're making me hungry.
It could have been a banana split because we did split it wide open. Pause, I guess. I don't know.
Pause.
I don't know if I should do that or not.
Oh man, yeah. We'll just move on from that. Yeah, banana split is a great.
But it was a banana. The actual play was banana. It was a. Yep. Okay. Exactly. No read, no or bust steps. Absolutely, 100%.
And that's not Tyreek Hill yet. That's probably why they get in the end zone. Although Chris Down Jr. is one heck of a speedster. It just seems like UTSA had some athletic guys on the back end too.
Yep.
And he's saying that's a good call against zone coverage. Absolutely is. We missed one from Chris Bolton. I want to make sure he's on here. Seeing ULM not at the bottom is so different. Yeah, there's got to have a lot of excitement and a lot of people happy that ULM is on a winning way. And I think Marv said it on Monday night's show. ULM has surpassed their win total for the season on betting sites at 1.5. They now have 2 wins. So congratulations. They've won some people some money, some easy money, because I'd have taken 2 wins for sure for ULM with the start of their season against Jackson State and UAB. Yeah, I'd have taken a chance on that.
Absolutely. And a win is a win, right? Doesn't matter how you get it. You just get it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So let's get into our players of the week. And that starts with the guy we just saw, Chris Don Jr. Now, again, we don't purposely go opposite of the Sun Belt Conference officially, but sometimes I think they weight things differently. And so we do ours, what we feel. So Chris John Jr., absolutely fantastic. As you can see here, 5 receptions, 150 yards, an average of 30 yards per catch, 2 touchdowns on the day with a long of 60. And one of the reasons he's player of the week, look how close he was to having 3 touchdowns. So he literally did most of the work on that play, right? I mean, Jordan McLeod dumped that thing off, but he took it the rest of the way and did all the work. And he was literally inches away from having a 3-touchdown, 150-yard performance. And I guess, in fact, he probably would have been 151 had he made it into the end zone. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic day. They had some other great performances. Lincoln Perry, their running back, had a absolutely tremendous game, 2 touchdowns himself. Jordan McLeod puts 3 touchdowns on the board, goes over 300 yards. But again, I think the play of Chris Dawn Jr. was the thing that put them completely over the top and so close to having that 3-touchdown performance. I think it's just absolutely fantastic week for him. And Ben James is saying it's because of General Booty at ULM. Well, I'd argue that it's actually because of the scheme, the running backs, and the head coach more than Booty. But we'll see, because he could possibly, roll into form here. That's a question I have. Artie Cat saying, I'm so bummed I missed the UTSA game in person, but had a fever of unknown origin.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
That's rough.
I did not know he missed that game. I figured he was there, man. So absolutely heartbreaking for Artie, because I know how much beating UTSA means to Texas State fans across the board here. And that is our offensive player of the week. TJ, you saw him there in that play. Is this a guy we're going to see more of, you think?
I would venture to say absolutely. I mean, these are Randy Moss video game numbers, right? I mean, yeah. I remember the first game. Well, but I saw the highlights of the first game when Dallas passed on Randy Moss. And the first time Randy Moss played against Dallas in Dallas, I think back in the early 90s, and Randy Moss had 3 catches for 170-some yards and 3 touchdowns.
Jeez.
So this is video game like numbers, and these are Randy Moss type of numbers. And if he keeps this up, he's going to be a household name in the Sun Belt Conference. That's for sure.
Yeah. You keep playing like this, and I mean, they've also got Joey Hobart over there. They've got Ishmael Mahdi out of the backfield who can catch passes. Lincoln Perry, who had a great game. Yeah, they're offensively, they have nothing to worry about. We know we had some questions after that Lamar game. It looks like it was just this first game, figuring out the scheme and system with some of the new guys. I think they're going to be just fine. And the coolest part is we get to see them Thursday night, as we'll talk about here in just a minute. So defensively, again, this is the thing we said. We don't always go against the conference just because. We just look at who we think is the best player. And this week, for the first time so far this season, the conference and us both agree. Jerron Manning, 5 solo tackles, 10 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, but most importantly, 2 interceptions on the day. The first 2 interception performance for an ODU Monarch since the year 2014. So very impressive there. And obviously a reason why they stayed in that East Carolina game, plus the fact that, Garcia threw 4 interceptions. But 2 of them look to be right to Manning's hands. So absolutely fantastic job by him. And also to note, that makes 2 straight weeks of ODU having defensive players of the week. So we know where the problem is in the ODU aspect. It's not the defense. It's looking like the offense is the thing that needs some help. I mean, that's pretty obvious. We know Grant Wilson may not even get the start this week as ODU is trying to figure out what to do to get that offense firing on all cylinders. But in good news, the defense is certainly firing on all cylinders. Anything about this performance you want to mention here, TJ?
No, I'm just echoing what you said. I mean, it's kind of more the same from last year, right? ODU's had a hell of a defense and just struggled scoring over 21 points. And that's the issue that they're running into now. And I think that's going to be the issue that's going to plague them throughout the season. When you've got teams that are as high-powered as Louisiana and potentially Troy, depending on that they can get on the right track, certainly Coastal, Texas State. I mean, you got teams like this that can score 30 at any given moment. It's going to be hard to stop those teams by only playing defense. If you can't score, 18, 20 points against those kinds of teams, you're not going to win. So, again, going back to the positive, great job, Manning. You don't get much better than this as a linebacker and as a football player in general. That said, though, they got to do something about that offense.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure one of those picks was in the end zone. If it wasn't in the end zone, it was in the red zone for sure. But obviously a big aspect of why that game, again, remains so close for so long. Ben James is asking us if we have a special teams player of the week. Yeah. I decided not to do that just because so typically it's like the kicker who makes the most kicks. It's kind of like the same type of thing. And then one of the reasons he's asking is because Arkansas State had the special teams player of the week, and it was a returner, not a kicker, which those ones are really cool. And you do like to give special shout outs. Honestly, if there was such a return specialist of the week, I mean, maybe we'd consider them like an offensive player of the week. I don't know. A special shout out here or there, maybe. I just wanted to focus on two. I just didn't want to get us to be too long in the tooth here. So try and at least give some of these guys some shout outs when they do some great stuff and reward them for their great play. Speaking of some great play, we're probably going to have some of that here in week 3. And I gave ULM a nice little shout out for also having one of the coolest, if not the coolest helmet in all of college football there with the Warhawk. Well, it's not called the Warhawk. The Warthog, I think, is actually the plane that's on. But yeah, if you haven't seen that helmet and you're not paying attention just yet, check it out. They also have the all black unis they wore against UAB. Phenomenal look. So a little shout out there to ULM as they continue to try and turn that program around. Staying with a team from the state of Louisiana, but not played in Louisiana. This one will be in Mobile Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern kick on ESPN Plus. South Alabama 0-2 faces Northwestern State, also 0-2. But TJ, I'm assuming you're not seeing much of a chance for an upset here. Or maybe you are. You have South Alabama last. Maybe I'm going to be surprised here.
So listen, no, I don't have no. First of all, okay. No, I don't have them on upset alert. That said, though, I'm not gonna say I would be shocked if they lost this football game. But they better figure it out. I mean, they better figure it out quickly. Even a tough loss, or excuse me, a tough win is not going to be good enough. Not going to be good enough to move the needle for me or for you, really in the conference or as we move forward throughout the season. I mean, I've got kind of little to no faith in what South Alabama's doing right now. I hope that they're able to get back on track. Again, I'm not calling for an upset at all. I imagine this game should be won pretty handily. But for their sake, they better hope so.
Yeah, I see this one being won handily as well. If we're gonna, I'd be confident enough to actually put money on a victory here. I don't know what. Well, actually, I can see what the spread. Oh no, it's one of those classic FBS FCS. We're not going to put a line on it games. At least from what I'm looking at on my screen. I don't know if you've got one on yours.
No, I don't have a spread on mine.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put any kind of spread on it just because a couple reasons, right? South Alabama hasn't won yet, so that they do have to do that. I think again they will. Gio Lopez is a wild card right now, and there's a couple reasons why he may remain a wild card going into this one because I haven't seen anything definitive on starting, not starting, at least as of yet. And I could see both sides of this, right? You want to have him 100% coming into App State, which is the Thursday night game next week. So they have exactly a week off before they go to that one, whereas App State plays Saturday and has a 5-day turnaround. But again, you keep him out, you're thinking he's going to be more healthy for that App State matchup. But then, he comes in, he could be rusty, right? He could take a little while to warm up.
That's the rub.
Yeah. So to me, there's too many question marks to say, like, I'd put it on like a 35-point spread. I'm not touching it for the spread. I do think they will come up with the victory, and I think hopefully it will be rather easy because I think they can win with either quarterback in this matchup specifically. I'm not worried about that. I've looked over Northwestern State, not impressed. Not only 0-2, but their statistics over that time frame, terrible offense, defense not really. They have like one real standout player, and the rest of them, I guess your typical FCS defense from these days, which is always harder to pull off than the offense. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up for that one. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm with you 100%. I'm not calling for an upset at all. Northwestern State, they don't look good at all, offensively or defensively, quite honest. And to be fair, I haven't seen a lot of them because I'm not watching a lot of FCS. But yeah, they listen. So this is a get right game.
Yes,
this is a get right game, no matter who's at quarterback, and they better use it that way.
No doubt about it. Now, one
Here we
that
go.
we are excited about.
Here we go.
We had the interview with Mr. Kuga, Caleb Cup himself. I don't know what to say about this one. This one is clearly the game of the week in the Sun Belt. It's actually one of the games of the week across the country, if you're being honest with me. If you people take out that P4, they have to be two P4 teams for it to mean something. No. These two teams both come in 2-0 Thursday night. It kicks off the exact same time as South Alabama, but one's on ESPN Plus. This one is a headliner on the main platform of ESPN. So this one you will be able to see on your TV without having to log into any internet. TJ, how excited are you for this one? I know we were excited before the season started, but now that it's actually here, what are you feeling going into this one?
I'm pumped, man. I am pumped. This is going to be a great Thursday night football game. It's going to be one that you want to sit down and have your popcorn ready for, because you're talking about two teams, explosive offenses, two teams that are 2-0. Statements can be made, and a bigger statement can be made by Texas State this game than I think Arizona State. Arizona State, the line for them is -1.5. Listen, it's a toss-up game, right? I mean, they're going to be at Bobcat Stadium, and quite honestly, to be favored away, Texas State should take that personal, right?
Yeah.
Even though it is 1.5, not a big deal. Still, in my opinion, Texas State enough for me to find in these kinds of games right here, right? What you're doing is you're finding any reason to be pissed off, and for somebody to. I remember when I was playing at App State, and there was one game we hadn't been doing super well. We've been winning, but not winning by the margins that we typically win by. I think it was my junior year or something that our own school newspaper picked us to lose.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got pissed, and I was pissed the entire week. And it's little things like that, right? Because you got to be objective, right? Like it's no different than you and I talking right now and having App State slide as far as they did in our rankings, because they didn't play well. At the time, we were not playing well. We had been winning, but we weren't playing the way we should be playing. And I actually think it was when we came off that loss to Wofford at Wofford my junior year, right before going to the last part of the three-peat. But anyway, I say that to say you find any kind of thing to hold on to and to get yourself right, to get your mental state right for a game like this. And I think that is enough for Texas State to go in and really to really find a way to win this game. I'm picking them to win it with my heart, but my head says it could go either way.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it can go either way. I mean, you're not talking about any joke of our Arizona State team coming in. I know we probably did kind of joke about that in the offseason because, the Herm Edwards debacle did not really go well for Arizona State. They haven't had the greatest couple of years put together, but they're looking good right now. They're 2-0. They've beat Mississippi State. Not saying Mississippi State's great, but probably the team that the most people expected to win that game was Mississippi State, not Arizona State. This is the first ever matchup, so there's no history. It's not like they see each other often. I have a question on if Mahdi gets back to form. Obviously, Perry had that great game last week. Is it Mahdi's turn this time? I mean, I was kind of surprised by how much he was held in check by UTSA, although I guess now if you look at it that way, UTSA probably had a specific game plan to take him out of the way as much as they could. Yeah, but if they're both going too, I mean, watch out. But the other thing you got to watch out for is a guy named Cam Scatabo. I think I'm pronouncing that right. This guy went off last week against Mississippi State for 262 yards. You want to hear the crazy? That's crazy. You want to hear the crazier stat? 262 yards, 0 touchdowns. Did not have a single touchdown, not receiving, not rushing. So not sure how it's crazy to me. You run the length of the field almost 3 times. You didn't score a touchdown somehow.
That's like that Julio Jones stat back. I think it was a while back when he was playing with the Falcons. He had 12 catches for 300 yards, 0 touchdowns.
That's gotta hurt so bad. You know what? You know who did have the touchdowns? Their quarterback, Sean Leavitt. Leavitt sounds like I'm talking to a dog. Leavitt. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's literally spelled just like that. Leavitt.
No offense, big guys, if we aren't pronouncing it right.
Yeah. That's a way for them to get pissed off and use that for their game if they hear that. But yeah, I believe that's how you pronounce it. But anyway, he is a mobile threat at the quarterback position. So the reason that Scatabo did not have the touchdowns is because the quarterback took it into the end zone, probably right there in the red zone. So, two guys that you've got to look out for rushing the ball here on the offensive side of things. And also Arizona State's defense, no slouches.
For sure.
But it's going to be the offense. If you have to take anything in this, if you're unsure of who's going to win, I don't blame you. I'm kind of the same way. These are two really good teams. They're really good offenses. Texas State averaging 41.5 points coming into this one. ASU, 39 points. So one thing I'll tell you is take the over.
Yeah, that's for sure. Right now, the over-under is 59.5. I am going to emphatically take the over.
Yeah, definitely do that. That's the one part you don't want to mess with. Ben J saying, what about Texas State QB? Yeah, Jordan McLeod. Again.
Yeah, we have it worked into the. I mean, that's part of it, right?
Yep.
That's part of the equation.
Yep, and like I said when we were starting off, the official Sun Belt Player of the Week was actually Jordan McLeod. So definitely you can't leave him off the list. But my question mark going into that is I think he's going to be consistent enough. I'm not concerned about Jordan McLeod. My question mark is, does Marty get back up to his usual performances, right, where he just can't be stopped? So it wasn't anything against Jordan McLeod. Fantastic player. There's no question mark there. And again, the wide receivers seem to be helping him out as well. So no question marks there. The running back position is not of a concern. It's just Marty specifically. And Mark is joining in saying McLeod throws 3 picks, and that becomes the difference. Oh, wow. I mean, it's not as the question.
I was just going to say, I think you're thinking what I'm thinking. I mean, with the defense that Arizona State has, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. I'm going to lean towards no, that he won't throw 3 picks. I mean, 2 is a lot. And if you said 2, I'd be like, okay, maybe, because they're going to spread it out. They're going to throw the football. But I also think, too, that if they can establish a line of scrimmage, that he won't have to put the ball in the air and put it in harm's way that much. If Ishmael Mahdi can get right, then we won't really be worried about how many times they're putting the ball in the air.
No, and I think he only had 1 pick this past week, and I remember that one specifically. It probably wasn't the best thrown ball, but very catchable. But the wide receiver knocked it into the air, and it was there was like 2 guys who couldn't make the catch. Yeah. So
we're talking about somebody who's prone to throwing picks, is what we're saying.
Yeah. This guy, I mean, I'm sure he's thrown some that are questionable, but I've seen rarities of him just like, what were you thinking? It was more like, all right, man, I could see why you tried it, kind of thing. He's not typically like the gunslinger just throwing it all over the place and losing it, but we'll see, because this defense is certainly going to bring pressure on that Texas State offense as much as they can all night. Don't call Arizona State ASU that when that is Arkansas State. Well, I got news for you. Nobody in the country calls any of the Sun Belt teams ASU, because App State used to also kind of go by that moniker. So if you say ASU, most places in the country, they're assuming you're talking about Arizona State. So A State is Arkansas State, and App is now App State or Appalachian State, depending on which one you want to use. So they've all 3 kind of got their own thing. And so that's why I refer to them as ASU in that regard. But yeah, in a conference matchup, I'm not going to be using that. All right. Non-conference matchup, as we continue to see most of this week. In fact, I don't know if there's any conference matchups this week. Let me run.
I don't think there are.
Not just yet. Next week is when that starts.
Yep.
So that's when App State and South Alabama link up in week 3. I guess it's week 4 actually. So yeah. Anyways, getting back to this one specifically, Jalen Rayner and the Arkansas State Red Wolves head up to a kind of like this Clemson deal from last week, a Michigan team that's going to be pissed off after how last week went against Texas, right? We can maybe make quick work of this. I don't know. Do you think Arkansas State can surprise? Do you think this one's going to go kind of, by the book? I mean, Michigan is a 23.5 point favorite right now.
Yeah, and I honestly think that's generous. I think they'll win by 30 plus. And it has nothing, and respectfully, I don't think that has anything to do with Arkansas State. I think that this is everything to do with wrong place, wrong time for Arkansas State. I think you're catching the team right now, much like Clemson was, who is just chomping at the bit to get back on the field. Their coaching staff, everybody on that team knows that they did not put up a good fight against Texas. They looked against Texas like Clemson looked against Georgia, outmatched, and they looked like they got manhandled up front. They could not get anything going, could not run the ball, throw the ball, couldn't stop them at all. and they're looking to get back on the right track. And this, unfortunately, is a get-right game for them. I think it's one of those games where I don't think it's going to matter much what Arkansas State does, much like it didn't matter what App State did. It's going to matter that Michigan's a pissed-off football team. So, listen, good luck.
Yeah, that's going to be a little rough. So Ben James is letting us know that he thinks they'll only score 12 points, which is interesting. The 12 points. I mean, you thinking 4 field goals? Or you thinking a field goal or 2 field goals and a touchdown without an extra point? Or what are your thoughts there, Ben? But he's saying A-State also plays former kicker Dominic Zavada, who moved up to Michigan, and Michigan let Fresno State score 10 in week 1. Yeah. Fresno State's no slouch. We know that the G5 Fresno State is a pretty good opponent. It is funny. Michigan kind of flipped their scores exactly from week 1 to 2. They won 30-10, and then they lost 31-12. So I think it was 12, right? Yeah. So Michigan's got that 12 scoreboard on the scoreboard. So that's a very random number, I think, for football. I feel like you see 13, 14 a lot, 10 a lot. 12 is pretty rare. Especially if you're talking about 4 field goals instead of, some combination of touchdowns, or you get even crazier and say they had 10 and then they get a safety for 2 points. Right. I don't think there's going to be any safeties in this game unless Michigan gets them, because they're that defensive powerhouse right now.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that you can question here is, does Jalen Raynor just take over, absolutely take over, and give Arkansas State a fighting chance? I think that's going to have to be what it is. I don't think Michigan's offense is really all that explosive. This team was supposed to be handed off from Blake Corum to, he's kind of pictured here. What's the running back, TJ?
I forgot his name. Geez, I'm staring right at him, but forgot his name. But yeah, it's supposed to be a clean handoff, and for all intents and purposes, we don't know yet, right? Like we don't know that it wasn't handed off smoothly.
Donovan Edwards, that's it.
Donovan. He played a bit last year.
Yeah, he did, and I think that's why a lot of people thought there was going to be a lot of confidence and familiarity coming into this season. He was just going to take right over where Blake Corum and that offense let off, but. Yeah, I mean, they were talking about it on Sirius XM this morning too. Like the quarterback, and again, I don't know his name off the top of my head either. But he's kind of been in a few spots, but he hasn't really been the starter in those spots. So he's got some learning to do. Davis Warren is his name there. Just, he's not a household name, and I don't expect him to be one even after this weekend. Even if they win comfortably, I don't think it's going to be a lot to do with him. But we'll see. This one is one that would definitely put Arkansas State on the map for this season and the rest. And Ben James, is agreeing there. Michigan quarterback isn't great. Percent chance for A-State to win up from earlier in the week from 5 to 7. All right.
Okay. There you go. Well, you're saying there's a chance.
There's a little tidbit. Now hammer Arkansas State. No, I'm just kidding. He also says they're overhyped. And yeah, I mean, they were overhyped coming into the season. You're going to see that a lot. When you win a national title, there's still going to be a lot of people who think you're going to have enough players left over. Now you're seeing that's not so easy. And one reason why TJ and App State winning 3 in a row at the FCS level was so impressive, because it's not just a given that you're going to get back there and win another one. Speaking of a team, though, that probably could and should and will win another one, I think it's fair to say Coastal's going to waltz right into the brotherly love city of Philadelphia and probably put the beating to Temple, right?
Yeah, they got the hell beat out of them by Oklahoma. Temple did, and then again by Navy. I think 31-6 or 31-3, or I can't remember exactly what the score was. And Navy's not even a team that puts up a lot of points. No. So if that tells you anything about, I mean, you got a team scoring 31 on you who predominantly runs the ball and throws maybe 5 to 8 pass plays a game, and they hung 31 on you. You know what I mean? Like that is not good. So I'll make quick work of this one. I think the Chanticleers go in, and I think they trounce them, man. I don't think it's gonna be close.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So listen to this. So Coastal Carolina has put up almost 100 points so far this season, which, I mean, that's not too crazy, but it's consistent, right? Right. They go for over 30. They go for 40 and over 56 or 55 points exactly in the first game. Have you seen the point totals that Temple put up? You just mentioned some of them. Oklahoma, they scored 3 points. Against Navy, they scored 11. They put up 2 touchdowns total on the season. There is nothing in my mind that tells me that this game is going to be in doubt or even close. This one will be in Coastal Carolina's favor from start to finish. Let's see. Coastal's only favored by 17.5. I'm hammering that, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. That I mean, I got him by 21 at least.
Yeah.
I mean, quite possibly. I think because here's the thing: if you lined up Navy and Coastal, I think Coastal wins that game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do too.
That's what I'm saying. So
yeah, I don't think there's any doubt.
I don't see it being close. Yeah, I don't see it being close.
Yeah. I've also been to randomly. My brother is a Temple season ticket holder, graduated from up there. I went to 2 Temple games last year, and there is absolutely zero atmosphere, zero noise being made by the fans. It's kind of, it's an awesome stadium, right? They play literally where the Eagles play. So
I was going to say, which is odd because them playing in Lincoln Financial Field, you think, you know what I mean? Like they would want to have some people just for the experience. Just to go to Lincoln Financial, and they can't even get people to go there for that.
Oh yeah, extremely affordable. Okay, you can pretty much, if you go to a certain section, you can have an entire row to yourself.
Right.
How often are you going to get into an NFL venue and say those types of things? So yeah, I don't know why more people in the Philadelphia area don't latch on to Temple football, because at some point they will have a randomly good season and it'll be a lot of fun. And if you're not already there, then I don't know, whatever. Bandwagon, I guess, and Philly could be great at that. But Philly's so strong in pro sports, maybe that's why Temple's just an afterthought. But it's a pretty obvious afterthought, and it's not for lack of effort. Really, they've got a good sound system, right? Because it's part of the pro one. They've got someone who runs like the thing. It's kind of done like a pro game, I would say, though. And so if you don't like that aspect, the band is heavily involved. But they do have the guy on the mic who's trying to get people to do things in between. It's not quite your typical college atmosphere, okay, but heck of a place to see a game. I know the Coastal fans are going to love it, being up there in Philly for this one, and I think they'll love it even more by the time it's over. So I expect a 3-0 Coastal Carolina to return down to Conway after that one. Yeah, this one maybe no doubt, but the other direction, right, TJ?
Yeah, I mean, look, okay, so I'm looking at Iowa, right, and they win their first game against Illinois State. I think it was 40-3 or something crazy, and you should do that, right? And then they beat Iowa State, they lose Iowa State 20-19. I think it was the final score.
Yep.
And that tells me that Iowa is exactly who we know them to be, which is they're gonna play great defense, which doesn't play well in Troy's favor, right? But they're not that good on offense. Which, the question is going to be, can Troy score 20 points against Iowa? And if they can score 20 points, they got a good chance of winning. Am I saying they're going to do it? No. Is Iowa the same Iowa that they were 2 years ago, 3 years ago when they were ranked? Ben saying the same thing I'm saying. Iowa can't score, and that's the truth. I mean, am I calling for an upset, Ben, the way you are? Probably not, based on what I've seen Troy do so far this season. But if they did go in there and win, I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to be surprised about it. I'm not calling for it, but I'm not telling you I'm going to be surprised about it. And the reason why I'm not is because this is the perfect game that is set up for Troy to go in and win, because it's going to be a hard-nosed, low-scoring football game, and Troy has the type of team that is capable of going in there and winning a game like this.
Yeah. I want to agree even more, but I got to see more from the offense still, really. I mean,
I'm with you.
Yeah, Bruce Crowder came in. He was a pretty decent recruit for them to have brought in. He was behind Gunnar Watson last season, so he had some tutelage and some coaching in that regard. And he's not looked bad, I guess I would say, but he hasn't looked phenomenal. He hasn't really taken that Gunnar Watson's spot from last season. But, honestly, the season before that, even though Troy had won their first championship in a while, Gunnar Watson wasn't the biggest aspect of that. In season 2 there, when they went back to back, he was a much bigger aspect. His game really improved and jumped up quite a bit. Obviously, we're just not seeing that type of play from Goose thus far. The player that I think is going to be the most important is Damian Taylor. He is the all running back. I think he's the one pictured here in the screen. He's going to have to. I mean, I think he's going to have to eclipse 100 yards, and I just don't know if you're going to do that against an Iowa defense.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, if you can't do that, I just don't know if Crowder and the wide receiver core is strong enough. Again, missing Chris Lewis, they're all everything receiver that transferred in from Kentucky last season, out with that cancer treatment, unfortunately. That would have been a big tool to have in this one against a big, fast Iowa defense. I'm not comfortable enough to think that Troy stands any chance after the performance they put on against Memphis. But like you guys have said, you and Ben kind of here, at some point, you kind of have to get a win, right? And like you said, this one, Iowa's not explosive. So it's not like
that's the thing.
Yeah, I just don't feel like. In fact, let's. You have the spread up here or anything?
Yeah, I've got Iowa by it now. The spread is Iowa by 22.
22.
I disagree strongly. But here's the thing. They got Iowa by 22, but the over-under is 38.5.
Yeah.
So they're saying what we're saying, right? Like they're not going to – neither team's going to score a lot of points. And Troy's not going to score a lot of points, they're saying, because of Iowa's defense. And Iowa's not going to score a lot of points just because Iowa doesn't score a lot of points. And I get that. And I don't disagree. But I think if there's any chance that Troy can beat a P4, P5, whatever team, this is the opportunity. This is the opportunity they can go in there and do it because it's set up perfectly, right? It's set up perfectly for them to go in there and take this win. So, am I counting on it? No, but if it were to happen, I would not. Because the other thing, and not to belabor the point, I know we got to move on to the next team. Troy lost to 2 very good football teams. Nevada's really good, and Memphis is great.
Yeah, Memphis
so they didn't lose to slouches. Memphis can go in right now to Iowa and beat Iowa. And I don't think there's any question. I don't think anyone questions that. So, it's not like they lost to, nobody. They lost to some teams that were really good. So, if it's doable, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so far what Ben has said could be true, although I don't know. Boise State put a heck of a fight against Oregon. They may be the best G5 team as of right now.
For sure.
But I think by the time this season ends, we're going to see if the Raging Cajuns and Coastal have something to say about that. And obviously, after Thursday night, we may have Texas State already saying, hey, I don't know how you say we're not the best after a victory like that. So, all right, our boys heading to Greenville, North Carolina. Oh, one interesting statistic has nothing to do with the Sun Belt, but every FBS team in the state of North Carolina is playing within the confines of the state this weekend. Isn't that kind of crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah, these two are playing each other, and all the other ones are just playing at home, I guess. And Central's actually involved in that. Central's playing somebody, whether it's Duke or somebody, Charlotte, something like that. Anyway, just an interesting tidbit, because with a state in North Carolina or any other really decent-sized state that has more than like 2 school teams or 2 state schools, that are in there, it's pretty rare for everybody to be playing at home on the same weekend. But
funny, little quick tidbit about you brought up North Carolina Central. My cousin just this past week committed running back from Havelock, North Carolina, Havelock High School. He just committed to playing running back at NC State or North Carolina Central. So shout out to LeBron Sharp and shout out to the Havelock Rams. Nice,
very nice. Now he's gonna be Bull City, baby.
Yes, sir. And I will be there. You'll have to check out a couple games with me.
I've been by, I think it was when I was like refereeing soccer back in the day. I drove by Central when there was a game going on. I was like, that looks like a hopping place, man. Obviously smaller stadium, but the place was packed. So yeah, I would love to go to a Central game, man. I think it would be a good time. So
another fun fact about Central, for the past 2 years or 3 years, they've done their renovations on all their dorms or I kind of clean up and all that kind of stuff. I've done the catering for the company that goes in and cleans their dorms out. So shout out to Moore's Tri-Area Cleaning.
There you go. Well, another random thing, my company has put a lot of steel into those dorms that they've been putting up. So
look at us.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Full circle, baby. Full circle. NC Central, do you want to sponsor the show? You want to sponsor
the show? Listen, we'll give you a lot of plugs right now.
Yeah, a lot of free advertisement. Petro Miller says ECU wears Adidas.
Yeah, and that should be their downfall. But unfortunately, I don't know.
Oh, man. Yeah, and Ben James is laughing when he says Texas State, Coastal Carolina, and Louisiana as equals. So far, man, I can't put a big differentiating factor between the three of them, really. That's why they're the top three for both of us at this moment. Okay, finally back to this game. 4 p.m. kick, ESPNU this Saturday. I don't know. You've got Mountaineers. You've got Pirates. You've got a team coming. I mean, I don't even want to say opposite performances because ECU's offensive performance was still awful last week.
Yeah,
they just happened to win a game against a bad ODU offense. Again, not bad ODU defense, just bad ODU offense who couldn't score enough to win that one as they should have. An App State offensively, I mean, I'll talk about this real quick, TJ. When I went back and looked at a couple things, but also when I was just there live, I really didn't think Joey was a big problem in the Clemson game. He was delivering the ball to his wide receivers, and they were really not terribly throwing balls or anything. The Clemson secondary was all over the wide receiver court. I mean, there wasn't even a step. I mean, they were literally being tackled as the ball was making contact. I've never seen timing like that so often. I don't think Joey had a bad performance. I just don't think they could do anything to run the ball to kind of make them respect the passing game more. So do you think he kind of recovers here in this one?
Yeah, I like you said, to the point of him recovering, I don't think he needs to recover. I think he needs to do exactly what he did last week. I think the difference is going to be you're not going to see a secondary like you saw last week. You're not going to see a football team like you saw last week, right? Like that. I mean, it was one of those things where obviously App put up a terrible performance, and that just is what it is. But was it terrible so much as it was just Clemson being great and kind of Clemson maybe coming back to form and back to who they are? I don't know. We have to – at some point, we have to stop saying App played terribly, which they did, and also look at it the other side of the coin, which is maybe Clemson is just coming back to being Clemson, and they haven't been for the past several years. And so, maybe they got pissed off at Paul Feinbaum, who told them they're going to be on the outside looking in for the playoffs this year. So who knows? I'm not a Dabo fan. I know you know how I feel about Dabo.
Yeah.
But maybe Clemson's coming back. So anyway, I say that to say, offensively, I didn't see that was our problem. It's not like we couldn't move the ball against Clemson. We moved the ball decently. I mean, like you said, they're just a better football team that night.
Yeah.
Do I think ECU is going to be Clemson? Not a chance in hell do I think that's going to happen. That said, though, I don't fear ECU, and I haven't feared ECU for quite a while. But it's just hard to say. It's one of those things where one of two things happens. App State either sits in their sorrows and wallows in it, or they get pissed off and feel like their back's against the wall and this is a game they got to win. It's up to them. So
they have to be the Clemson this week where
100%.
They're coming off. Clemson will come off the Georgia loss. App State now has to come off the Clemson loss, be firing on all cylinders and everything else. I agree with you. I think that's going to happen, and I want to get to Montreal's comment real quick. Are we not liking Liberty? Hell no, we're not liking Liberty. They almost lost to New Mexico State. And DJ, you were watching that game on replay before we got this one started. So I'm telling you, this guy eats, sleeps, and breathes football, fellas and ladies, if you're watching or listening. I don't know. Do you feel differently? You think Liberty is actually a pretty good team again?
I don't know. It's hard to say because, again, I literally had it on right here watching it before you and I went on live. And I was like, because I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing. And it didn't start out great, but it kind of ended. I'm not super impressed. I've got to see a couple more games. And we talked about this too. College doesn't get a preseason. So, you don't know who you are until the third or fourth game. I know I say that on repeat. If you've heard it before, I apologize. But it's just the fact, right? You just don't know who you are yet. And so for me, I think I want to give them a shot, right? I want to give them another game or two to see if they can round into form. But no, I'm not super high on Liberty Trail. I'm not, but I've got to see more.
Yeah, I think it was more, you haven't finished that game. I stayed up after when you get back from a game like Clemson, like you got to turn TV on and watch something better.
Anything.
So we watched that one till 1 something in the morning, I think. It wasn't to me so much that Liberty was great that night. It was New Mexico State couldn't get out of their own way to keep control of the game, and they just lost it towards the end, essentially. So, yeah, not impressed. But anyway, we're going to have that team match up with App State here very shortly. But, yeah, and this one, again, 4 interceptions for Garcia last week, 7 interceptions so far on the season. So 3 in week 1, 4 last week. I mean, I'm not saying App's going to come up with 3 or 4, but at least 1 or 2, I'm thinking is what's going to happen. Unless they just go totally different and just run the heck out of the ball and try not to throw it too much. But he's a gunslinger. He wants to throw the ball. He's going to throw the ball in this Mike Houston offense. So I think ECU takes some chances. They may get down early if App State is firing on all cylinders coming into this one. And if they're trying to catch up late, it ain't going to work out for them. They're not a type of team that's going to be able to do that. So I expect the Mountaineers to come up with a victory over the Pirates in that one. And the line is favoring App, but only by 2.5. So some people who don't feel the same way we do about that one, because I'm taking
I think the line should be closer to 5 or 6, but I think they're giving them that 3 or 4 point because they're at Dowdy Ficklin. I think the general consensus is App by a touchdown. But you want to give some, you want to give leeway to a team that's at home. So I see the respect.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense. So then we've got Virginia Tech matching up with ODU. This one being played at ODU. Advantage ODU. We've seen them beat this Virginia Tech team before at home in Norfolk. But as we've said too, Grant Wilson, this offense, not working right now. However, also having said that, there's a chance we don't see Grant Wilson this weekend.
That is true. Also true.
So, yeah, in fact, I would put money on the fact that if we see him, it's either early and it's not working and they make the change, or it's, a blowout, probably the other direction if I had to just take one, and we see him come back towards the end of the game to kind of give him some more reps in case they revert back, right? Because I feel like if you do go against him and it doesn't work out with the other guy, then what are you going to do? That you just keep throwing quarterbacks at this until this thing works. At some point, you just got to stick with the guy. And Wilson is your veteran, so I don't know. What are you thinking in this one?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I mean, the line is 14.5, favoring Virginia Tech. I don't think it'll be that big of a margin. Then again, though, I don't know, because I don't know that ODU can put up points. I know ODU has a hell of a defense. That's what I do know. And I know that ODU's defense is better than Marshall's defense for sure. And I think Virginia Tech, what was it? They managed 27, I think it was, against Marshall.
31.
Okay, so 31. I think I turned it off. Yeah, 31-14. So do I think they'll score 31 against ODU? No. But do I think ODU can score 30? No. So you know what I mean? So that's the rub. I don't think I got Virginia Tech winning. I don't got them winning by 14, but I do have them winning probably closer to 10, maybe 7.
Yeah, I can see that. I think neither one of us are really all that impressed with Virginia Tech so far. So it
haven't been impressed with Virginia Tech in like 5 years.
Yeah, and I guess one of the big questions right here, we'll just go off this. So they played South Carolina. We saw what South Carolina just did to Kentucky.
Right.
Okay. That did not happen to ODU in week 1.
Right.
So that's how good that defense could be and is, I think.
That's my point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And now you're looking at a Virginia Tech team who lost to Vanderbilt in week 1, who has a pretty good defense, I'd say. I don't know if I'd say anything about Vanderbilt's defense is necessarily elite. But, again, this ODU defense could step up and literally win the game for them. I mean, they come up with a fumble and 2 interceptions or just turnovers, 4th down stops. I mean, and then
they got 2 interceptions last week. You think they won't cash in one of those this week?
Right.
You know what I mean? If that were to happen, you think they're not going to score at least on one of those? I'd venture to say yes. Yeah.
Montreal saying that that South Carolina versus Kentucky game was trash for 50 minutes.
That's true. That's true.
It was trash, but again, you got a team that was not kept in check by another defense, and this one so far kept that same offense really in check in week 1. So I think they can do it against Virginia Tech. I think Marshall was pretty decent defensively against Virginia Tech as well. So, yeah, I mean, that Virginia Tech team still put up the 31 last week, so you do have to respect that. But yeah, like you said, ODU at home too. Again, kind of like that Troy-Iowa matchup. This one seems a little similar to me in the fact that, like, at some point ODU has to win a game, right? So is this the one? Because unlike Troy, you're not going on the road to a power conference team here. You're at home hosting them. So, man, this could be – they win this one and they easily forget about those first two games because Virginia Tech's also an in-state school they'd love to have a victory over. So, yeah, and what's the spread on this one?
14.5 for
14,
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd take ODU and the points on that one.
I think so too. Yeah.
That's if I'm taking a chance on anything, maybe not a lot of money on that, but I put a couple bucks on it or something. Sure. Okay. So we got the last 3 games here. South Carolina State travels to Statesboro, Georgia to take on Georgia Southern. South Carolina State coming in 1-1. Georgia Southern also coming in at 1-1, but I don't feel those records are really all that similar when you're looking at who each team has played and whatnot. And I was really impressed with the performance against Nevada. I mean, they did have to kind of win it late there defensively. But that's not, like we said, we think Nevada's pretty good. You had to go across the country on the road to go beat them at their place. So I don't see this one being close as an FCS. But TJ, you specifically had some close games with South Carolina State. So you think any surprises in this one, or you think kind of along the same lines?
No, I don't see any surprises happening. I mean, South Carolina State is formidable. Shout out to my aunt, Melanie Reels. She graduated from South Carolina State University. So big shout out to her. Don't know if she's watching, but certainly a shout out to her as well. That said, though, no, I don't think it's going to be quite close, to be honest. There's no line for this game, and I think it's one of those traditional, FCS versus, where they're not going to put a line on it. But I don't see this being close. I think what Georgia State did to Nevada, again, we call it a quality win. I think you feel the same way,
yes.
Right? Quality win.
Yes, I'm calling it a quality win.
And I don't think that anybody who South Carolina State has played so far has been on that level. So, no, the answer is no. I don't think it'll be close. I think it'll be quite honestly, I've got Georgia Southern by 21 at least. Okay.
I think that makes sense. I think probably more so than any game they played so far this year, they're going to run the ball successfully in this one. 100%. I think that's one of the things that Georgia Southern has been missing. Now, obviously, in that Boise State game, they kind of had no choice. After that score fest, they just had to start throwing it all over to kind of make up that ground. And then in Nevada, just wasn't working real well. So they just went to the air, and that was working better. So, South Carolina State averaging just over 20 points a game against 2 FCS opponents, of which they've gone 1-1. Georgia Southern averaging closer to, I think it's 30 or just over 30. A little over 30 points per game against 2 FBS opponents. So I think you're going to see that kind of outweigh it here. And I agree with you. I don't think this one stays all that close for very long. And not an easy place to play down there in Statesboro, Georgia. All right, a team we actually talked about just a few minutes ago, Vanderbilt, a surprising 2-0 Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. Is traveling to Atlanta. So we've got 2 power teams coming to the Sun Belt Conference home stadiums this weekend. What do you think here? Vanderbilt keep it rolling with a surprise start, or do you think Georgia State could pull off a shocker here and get a win over an SEC opponent at home?
So we got to define surprisingly for Vanderbilt, right? Because they played Virginia Tech and then they played Alcorn State, right? So
part of that's not surprising. You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, let's kind of taper our expectations. Virginia Tech, we just saw what they did last week. Not a very good football team at all. And then they played against Alcorn State. Is it Akron or Alcorn? Who do they play?
Alcorn. It is Alcorn.
Alcorn. I don't even know where they are.
Steve McNair, right? Steve McNair.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Steve McNair. So, listen, I've got Vanderbilt winning. Unfortunately, I don't think Georgia State is gonna be able to put up much of a fight. That said, though, I'm not impressed by Vanderbilt so far and what they've done. So if Georgia State does give them a good game, I'm not gonna be mad at it. But let me take a look at what the line is right here. What I'm looking at, it is 10.5. Listen, it's only a 10.5 point line for Vanderbilt. So what are we doing? This is not something that I'm I'm super high on.
Yeah, no, I'd be. This is a game I take a chance on for sure, and here's why. So you've got a new coach with a bunch of new players. We've talked about this before. Roster turnover, a young season, right, where they've kind of gotten some things. But like you said, ultimately the most important thing is the W, and they got that against Chattanooga. They got some energy, some life. They want to spring an upset, and they're playing at home against an SEC opponent. I mean, they've got no pressure, really, right? I don't think nationally most of anybody thinks they're going to win this game. But I think the people down there in Atlanta are starting to believe that this team could be something special, but it is just going to take a little bit of a build. So, yeah, and if you look at the statistics for Vanderbilt, I mean, nobody offensively is jumping off the page at me. Not a single player is like, wow, look at this
because guy. They don't have the team to jump off the page at you. I mean, they beat nobody.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, yeah, at absolute worst, I think this is somewhere close to the game against Georgia Tech to start the season, 35-12, which wouldn't be terrible. Obviously, that's not covering the spread there, but I don't think that Georgia Tech Georgia State game was really all that ugly. I did not expect Georgia State to win. I had hoped they would, right? You've got a team coming back from across the country or across the pond to come back to try and get comfortable after a big win, a lot of pressure to stay good. So I thought, it could be a surprise, but that was always going to be a tough ask because of what was behind all of that. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it because we haven't had any of those big wins yet this year. So this could be one to, again, like you said, Vanderbilt's not that great, but
but it would be a nice statement win going against an SEC football team. I get what you're saying, and I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully they can spring it, and I think we're now at the last game of the week. Yes, South Florida travels to Hattiesburg, Mississippi to take on the Golden Eagles. Both teams come in 1-1. However, South Florida's lost last week just to Alabama. So
no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. I'm sure they expected to win that one. But as not joking around, they were in that game for a little bit, the very, very beginning. But 42-16 the final score. So obviously it didn't last. I think were they up on Bama early? Let me bring this up. I
can't remember. I don't think so.
If they weren't up, they were close. Okay, so they were 7-3 in the first quarter, and then the second quarter was actually the same score, 7-3, so 14-6 at the half. That's what it was. It was where I'm like, wow, this is what's going on in Bama. Like this is way closer. Although South Florida did the same thing to Bama last year, right? I mean, didn't they play them insanely close at home there?
Yep, and I think Alabama too has some coaches that have moved over to the Bulls. So I think that's part of it.
Oh, okay, actually, I'm looking even closer here. It was the fourth quarter that was the determining factor because in the third quarter, actually going into the fourth quarter, it was 16-14 USF. Or 13-14 Alabama. Sorry, I was mixing numbers there.
No worries. Yeah, that is close.
Yeah, real close. So yeah, Alabama woke up in that fourth quarter and scored 28 fourth quarter points. So just a little bit run away there. But we've also talked there about what Southern Miss has done or not done, and I don't know. This is going to be a more telling sign between Kentucky and Southeast Louisiana. This is going to be more of a test.
Now you're talking about teams that are a little bit more evenly matched, and I think this is going to give us a good indicator of who. Now this is going to determine where Southern Miss moves up or down on my top 10. This is going to be the game that lets me know whether I was right or whether you were right in terms of where they should be. If they come out and lay an egg, then I won't be upset about saying who you were right. I just need to see it. You can't punish your team for winning. Is my only point. So, who am I picking? I'd like to say Southern Miss, to win it, but I think the way that I don't know, man. I want to say South Florida because of how well they played against Alabama for 3 quarters. And I think that's where I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go with South Alabama. Jesus Christ, South Florida. Sorry.
Yeah. It's all the same. South Bama, South Florida.
Right. South something.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I have Southern Miss at the bottom of my power rankings for a reason. I believe South Florida will win this game and cover the 11 points rather easily. Again, hope I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. I would love to see a Sunbelt team get a victory over an American team, and one that's often rumored to be kind of the next to go to the Power 4 level. So if they could win this and keep that team, that fan base in check, and obviously provide a lot of stuff to be excited for themselves before conference play gets rolling too. I think it's just going to be a good atmosphere, at least to start the game. Hopefully they can keep it, rolling if they got it going on offense, and can spring what I think would be a pretty big upset, to be totally honest. So we'll see. Chris Bolton says USF was stout against Bama. I look for the Bulls to win it. Yep. Chris, I'd have to agree with you. I think ultimately TJ would agree with you. If you're playing with some of your money on this one, you got to be smart.
That is a fact. And then also the line is USF by 11. So
yeah, if you want to throw $1 and take the underdog, I think you're fine, right? $1. If you can throw away $1, then you do.
I don't have many dollars I like throwing away. So
no, I don't like to throw away dollars too. We're trying to bring those into this place.
That is a fact.
Not throw them away. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up. I hope this is and obviously we've got 4 teams on bye. So this was 10 teams playing this week. We've got 4 teams on bye, and they will get back into action next week. And I think there's a couple other teams that will flip into a bye. But we, again, have a conference game coming up as South Alabama will travel up to App State to play a Thursday night game up there in Boone. Maybe cold by then already. It's actually, I've heard it's been in like the mid 40s sometimes in the mornings already. So
yeah, at night for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. We're right at a half hour. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this show up here?
I am good, man. Thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. As always, you can find me at Thick Thighs and Large Fries on the Instagram. I need to make a Facebook page for that as well. I think you said a little bit to me as well today. Some of the older crowd, us, we're pushing 40. I think a lot of us are on, as my grandmother would say, the Facebook. And I think I need to get that page jumping on there. But yeah, you can find me there. Thank you guys again for listening. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We're getting old when we're like, oh, do you have a Facebook? And everyone's like, nah, I got an Instagram. I got a TikTok. And you're like, oh, yeah, man, I guess I got to get on that game.
Yes, sir.
I got back into the game once we started doing this. So yeah, it's crazy. It takes up so much time, but it is fun. We share a lot of stuff between the two of us. So anyway. Yes, thank you for tuning in. We continue to see a lot more people interested in downloading the show in the audio version, so we appreciate that very much. We did get a little fan mail, TJ. So someone wrote us and said that they appreciate what we're doing and keep it going. So, hey, we've got at least one big fan. We definitely have a fan in Artie who shows up every single week to share comments and thoughts and feelings with us. And, hopefully his Texas State Bobcats can continue to look good this Thursday, tomorrow night, for those listening in the morning today. Yeah, we will see you guys next week.
Sunbelt Syndicate.